Hello, and welcome to Dining with Death, True Crime Tuesday. This is a very recent story and one that we don't yet know the outcome of, at least for the trial anyway, but I'm going to talk about it now, and then if there is enough information, we will do a part 2. There's part of me that believes that because our lives are so now well documented, our steps are so closely tracked, and our lives are so available to other people on social media and through our digital footprint, that perhaps people are going to become more savvy when it comes to crime. And I think part of me believes that because of the explosion in popularity of the true crime genre, people are going to become more aware of how difficult it is to get away with murder, and that hopefully they will change their minds if they're considering committing one. But sadly, I don't think we've seen any type of decline in murder rates, even when they involve people who document every aspect of their lives on Facebook or Instagram, and now TikTok. Today I'm going to tell you a very sad story about some very evil people and the lengths they went to in order to get back at a former family member. This is the story of the murder of Abby Choi, the Hong Kong model murder. Let's get into it. February 2023. Abby Choi is a 28-year-old woman living in Hong Kong. She was born in July of 1994 to a wealthy family in British Hong Kong. Now, I want to start off by apologizing in advance for my pronunciation. I've looked these words up to make sure I'm at least close, and I will do my best to say them correctly. Abby Choi was raised in a very luxurious lifestyle and had kind of a fairy tale life. Her father is a very successful construction business owner who does most of his work in China. He is worth about 100 million HKD, which is around 17 million US dollars. Abby was very active on social media and spent a lot of time modeling beautiful clothing and posing for photos of her daily life, eating in very nice restaurants and shopping in the best stores. At just 28 years old, she was a very well-known and successful woman who the media in Hong Kong called a style icon. As you can see, her Instagram page is a very carefully curated gallery of beautiful images with a very clear aesthetic. Money. Lots of money and lots of luxury and lots of beautiful things. Abby is seen standing outside Dior, she's in Vogue magazine, she's eating, she's drinking, she's shopping, she is living the life. Despite being very wealthy, by all accounts, Abby was a nice person. Her friend Pao Jo Yi says Abby doesn't have any enemies. Abby's husband Chris says she was a very kind person who always wanted to help people, and that anyone who knew her was blessed by doing so. On Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2023, Abby Choi posted this photo. It's her on the cover of a magazine, and it's captioned, "From Hong Kong to the cover of L'Officiel Monaco, my journey as a style icon continues. Grateful for this recognition and the continued support along the way." The second image in this Instagram post is a snippet of the article that is entitled Paris, the Rise of the Style Icon Abby Choi. It talks about how Abby Choi has, quote, taken the world by storm with her impeccable sense of style and her unbridled passion for fashion. It credits her for being able to mix and match pieces in unexpected ways and says she has a keen eye, which is the reason she has become such a powerful influencer. Abby has 149,000 follows on Instagram, which is a lot of people. Of course, it's not in the realm of people that have millions of followers, but it's a good following. At 28 years old, she had many years ahead of her to continue building her name and cultivating her image as an influencer. Not long after posting what would become her last post on February 14th, Abby Choi went missing. She was also very quickly reported as missing. I think the police reaction shows just how powerful Abby's family was and how well known she must have been in that area, because there was an immediate response by law enforcement. I am not the least bit familiar with the inner workings or the nuances of law enforcement in Hong Kong, but I do know that the crime rate there is much lower than it is here in the States. Hong Kong is like 50th on the international list of sexual assault and murder. It's way, way down there on the list. So not only do we have an influential and wealthy person missing, it's happened in a country where that sort of thing is much more infrequent than here in the States or even in most parts of Europe. The police immediately set about looking for Abby. Here's something else that is important to know. Abby's ex-father-in-law was a sergeant in the police department. Let's get into that a little bit. Abby was just 18 years old when she married Alex Kwong, who was also only 18 years old at the time. The couple was married in 2012, and that same year, Abby gave birth to their first child. In 2014, Abby and Alex had a second child together. Now, here's a real point of confusion. I read in some articles that the first two children were girls, but I have seen photos of Abby with her children, and the two oldest appear to be boys. So if anyone can clear that up, please let me and everyone else know in the comments. Alex had a brother named Anthony, who, I find this a little bit strange, worked as a chauffeur for Abby and Alex. Now, obviously, Alex is not from a wealthy family, so perhaps in that culture, hiring your family members when you have more money than them is normal. In American culture, that would be seen as kind of uppity to hire a family member to be a personal servant. That isn't something that would be looked at very highly here, but again, I do not know the cultural nuances of Hong Kong. It could be something that is completely usual there and seen as doing a good deed. In about 2015, Abby and Alex began to have marital troubles, and then they divorced. It is said that Abby remained close with Alex's family even after the divorce. The couple's children were loved and doted on, and things seemed to be okay between Abby and Alex and between Abby and Alex's families. Abby met and then remarried a man named Tam Chuk Kwan. Abby and Tam, who was also known by Chris, were married in 2016, although I read reports that said it wasn't a legal marriage, it was simply some kind of commitment ceremony. Tam, or Chris, as he's called in some articles, he was apparently also called Prince Chris at times. I'm assuming as kind of a nickname because Chris's father was wealthy and powerful, is wealthy and powerful. Tam is the son of the founder of Tamjai Yunnan Mixian, which is a casual restaurant chain in China. From what I could gather, it's not really fast food, it's a noodle house, and there are quite a few of them in China. It's a very successful chain. Abby and Tam go on to have two children together as well. And again, I'm not sure if they were boys or girls. A lot of the photos of Abby with her children that appear online have the faces of the children blurred out. But she does in fact have 4 children. After Abby and Alex divorced, Abby continued to financially support Alex's entire family. Not only did she support her ex-in-laws, but Tam's parents, her current in-laws, would vacation with her ex-in-laws, Alex's parents. So it was not just a cordial relationship, but in fact, a very close familial relationship. Abby even bought a house in Katori Hill for Alex's father and his wife to live in, her ex-in-laws, and this wasn't like a little house. This house was $45 million in Hong Kong money, which is almost $6 million here in the States. So this was a very nice house. And it is this house that becomes the source of great contention in our story today. Sometime in 2022, Abby told her in-laws that she was going to sell the house they were living in. Alex's parents were very, very angry to hear this. I'm not exactly sure why they felt entitled to be supported in that luxurious way by Abby. Maybe, again, that is a cultural thing. Again, I want to be very transparent about my ignorance of Hong Kong culture. I even read that Abby offered to find them a different property. I don't think she was planning to, kick them out on the streets. She had her reasons for wanting to get rid of the property they were currently living in to sell it. Tensions began to rise between the family members and the ex-family members, but you would never have known that from Abby's Instagram page. Her life just looks like the literal picture of paradise, of the perfect life. We aren't yet entirely aware of just how bad things became between Abby and her ex-in-laws, but apparently things were very, very bad. I don't think anyone was aware of just how bad the situation had become. February 21st, 2023. Abby Choi is reported missing. She and her ex-brother-in-law, Anthony, who still apparently worked for her as a chauffeur, were supposed to pick up Abby's daughter on the day that she disappeared, and they never arrived. The alarms were immediately raised when Abby didn't show up as she normally did. Like I said earlier, this was treated as a very immediate and emergent problem. It wasn't like here in the States where you're told, you have to wait 48 hours to file a police report. As soon as Abby didn't show up to pick up her daughter, law enforcement was involved. In the beginning, some authorities believed Abby may have been kidnapped for ransom. They thought she might have been taken and was then held somewhere, but that quickly became unlikely. The police searched for Abby through the night after she went missing, and then they searched the following day as well, and they found nothing. It was approaching 48 hours after Abby's disappearance, and things were looking grim. Then on February 24th, police get information that leads them to this house in Tai Po. I looked and looked for details on how the police got the information that led them to this house, but I couldn't find any. Again, maybe this is something that the Hong Kong police don't release to the public. It might just be that they haven't released the details yet, waiting for trial. But I couldn't find information on how the police arrived at this house. As the police enter the house, they immediately realize they're in what amounts to a kill room. On the ground floor of the house, they find an electric saw and a meat grinder. Both the saw and the meat grinder have blood on them. Some of the articles I read described this house as though it was set up as a kill room, like a permanent kill room, but I don't think that's the case. I think this house was rented specifically for this purpose. Hong Kong has a very low crime rate, and it's not like this is, the backwoods of Virginia or mobland in Chicago. I don't know that I believe there would be a need for a permanent kill room in a suburb of Hong Kong. As police go through the home, they find more items that lead them to believe they're on the right track. They find women's clothing, and they find a very expensive pale pink handbag. You can see it here in this photo. From here on out, I have to be very careful of the things that I say because, this platform, you can't say things here that are said on the lunchtime news reports. But I'm going to explain to you the best I can what happens next. Police enter the kitchen of this home in Tai Po. The home is specifically in Lung Mei Soon village, located in Tai Po. In the kitchen, they find pots, large stainless steel kitchen pots. And in those pots, they find parts. There are ribs, there is hair, and there is a skull. Now they are sure they have found a murder scene, and more officers are called to the location. Police and forensics units continue to go through the house, and inside the refrigerator, they find legs. They have been cooked and refrigerated. Now, the cooking part, I can't even begin to understand why that was done. It doesn't affect the disposal effort. In fact, I'm a chef. I work with meat. Frozen is much easier to cut up, but they were cooked and then refrigerated, which I don't understand. It's just one more very weird and very creepy element to this horrific story. Police know they've got a murder, and they're quite sure they know who the victim is, but they have found very little of her. The torso and upper limbs were not present at the scene. I'm going to show you some footage of the house in Tai Po, and you'll see authorities bringing out some large kitchen vessels and placing them into the backs of forensic vehicles to be taken away. Apparently, in the soup pots, along with the skull and ribs, police found cooked carrots and radishes cooking alongside the other matter. I really hope that was just to disguise what was inside the pots as soup, and that no one was really intending on consuming it.
A grisly murder case in Hong Kong saw 4 people charged on Monday in connection with the crime, after police found parts of the body of 28-year-old model Abby Choi in a village house in the city's outskirts.
On Friday, at a house in a village outside of Hong Kong, investigators found Choi's dismembered body parts in a refrigerator and skull in a pot on the stove. The unfurnished ground floor rental, they say, was set up as a butchery equipped with an electric saw and a meat grinder.
It seems that techniques are a bit different in Hong Kong than they are here in the States. As you can see here, officials are holding up evidence bags, showing the media and the public the items of evidence they have collected from the scene. That would never happen here in the States. We always see our forensics units carrying out evidence in white opaque bags. You can't see what's in them. Here in the States, those items are not shown to the public or to the media until well after the trial, if at all. But this must be part of the procedure in Hong Kong. I don't think one technique is different or worse. I'm just pointing out that there are differences. Different cultures are more interested or more convinced or maybe more invested in different things, and maybe seeing the items of evidence is important there. On an aside, one of the glaring differences I found while researching this story is that the faces of the main players in a crime story are blurred out. Even Abby's face is blurred out in the articles coming directly out of Hong Kong. You can easily find photos of Abby in other articles, and you can find her, of course, on Instagram. Even the British media outlets have her face shown, but in Hong Kong, they seem to blur out the photos of all the people involved in a story. The police move very, very quickly in Hong Kong. I saw a comment on TikTok that says, although Hong Kong is a very peaceful place, it's not a place where people are constantly screaming about their freedom or invoking their rights. It's a little more authoritarian there, and people toe the line a little bit more. And so the police can move at a more rapid pace in an investigation. They don't really worry as much about making a singular tiny mistake that might end up hurting them at trial. Now, again, this is a TikTok comment, take it as you wish, but yes, they did seem to move very fast. The day after the parts are found at the house in Tai Po, arrests are made. Some people are shocked and others are not. Abby Choi's ex-husband, Alex Kwong, is arrested for her murder. Apparently, he's standing on like a ferry pier by the water, waiting to get on a speedboat when he is arrested by Hong Kong authorities. This made the news. Hours before Alex was arrested, Anthony, Alex's brother, the one who worked as Abby's chauffeur, he was arrested along with Alex's parents. His mother and father, his former police officer father, the ones who had been living in the $5 million house paid for by Abby, the ones who were about to be ousted from that house when Abby sold it. The arrests of Anthony and Mr. and Mrs. Kwong were kept a little more quiet, but police know that Alex was aware his family members had been arrested, and that is why he was taken into custody before he could board this speedboat. Police firmly believe that Alex was trying to flee, trying to get out of the country to avoid capture. When Alex was arrested, he had 500,000 HKD, Hong Kong dollars, which is about 86,000 US dollars on him. He also had several luxury watches on him in his pockets, items that could quickly be sold for cash. The watches were worth $4 million in HKD, so it really does appear that he was attempting to flee and take assets with him. On February 27th, authorities held a press conference and informed the media that a forensic examination of the parts found in the house, in the soup pots, and the refrigerator had been completed. They confirmed that the parts belonged to Abby Choi. Her skull had a large hole in the back of it, and that is what they believe killed her, blunt force trauma to the skull.
Unfortunately, there's a hole on the right side rear on the skull. So the pathologists believe that should be the fatal attack.
Searching continues for other body parts.
The torso area, the hand, those are still missing. So we believe the suspect have already disposed of the body part already.
Choi had been reported missing 3 days earlier after she failed to pick up one of her 4 young children.
As you heard in that clip, Superintendent of the Police, Ronald Cheng, said the wound to the head was most likely the cause of death. Authorities believe that when Abby got into the car to be driven to her daughter's school to pick up her daughter, she was attacked and most likely killed. She was then driven to the house where she was dismembered. So this is especially sinister. This woman got into a car with someone she had known since 2012, someone she considered family, Alex's brother, and perhaps even Alex was there, and he or they attacked her. It's very evil. This is a young woman, a mother, a daughter, a family member of theirs. As we well know, sometimes it's the people closest to you that do you the most harm. It's tragic. On this same day, another woman, known only by her nickname of Yung Yung, came into the picture. This woman is believed to be Kwong Kau's mistress. Kwong Kau is Alex's father, and she supposedly was his mistress for about 6 months. Yung Yung worked as a masseuse at a massage parlor in the Prince Edward district. Police believed that she helped Kwong Kau rent the apartment home where the saw, the meat grinder, and the parts were found. They also believed that Young helped to rent a luxury flat around mid-February in order to hide Alex Kwong after the murder was committed. Alex was apparently aware of his father's extramarital affair. This just sounds like a real family of winners, doesn't it? Lovely folks. Anyway, police arrested Young as well, and she's been charged with kind of what amounts to aiding and abetting over here. On February 27th, Alex Kwong, his father, Kwong Kau, and his brother Anthony appear in court for the first time. They are charged with the murder of Abby Choi, and they are facing sentences of life in prison. We do not yet know how the police implicated the men or what part they believe each man played in the killing, but apparently they believe all three are guilty of, if not killing Abby, of planning the murder and of helping dispose of the body. The judge denied bail for the whole lot of them. Even if these men had all of Abby's money, they wouldn't be able to get out of jail. And it looks like they'll be there until they go to trial. The following day, February 28th, authorities and forensics units begin searching a landfill in Ta Kwu Ling. I read reports that said this is the landfill that the garbage from Tai Po is dumped at, and therefore police believe that some of the smaller parts may have been hauled away in the trash. Other reports I read said someone called the police and reported that they saw bones at the landfill. This person or these people had heard about the murder and claimed they'd seen bones at the dump. It has not yet been determined whether or not those bones are animal or human, or if they're linked to this murder at all. But as you can see here, the police have spent a great deal of time and man-hours going through piece by piece of garbage, looking for anything that may assist them in their investigation. Then Alex Chung, superintendent for the police, comes forward again and tells the media, quote, "We believe the suspects, on the morning of 22nd February, had thrown away a few bags of important evidence, which could possibly be human remains, the victim's clothing, phone, and even the murder weapon." On that same day, Taoist priests arrived to begin performing funeral rites for Abby, wishing for a good afterlife and for the soul of the deceased to find peace. Such a beautiful ritual, and I hope it is bringing some comfort to Abby's family. Those poor kids. Police then got their hands on the lease from the home in Tai Po and discovered that Kwong Kau, Abby's father-in-law, had rented the location a few weeks before Abby disappeared. This was not a spur-of-the-moment murder. Steps had been taken to plan for this terrible event. The police then informed the media and the public that the Kwong family had made intentionally misleading statements to them about the house in Tai Po, about not knowing anything about the location, or about Abby's whereabouts. Well, that all went up in smoke when they found Abby's ID and her credit cards inside the rented house. Her phone was dumped, obviously, so it couldn't be traced. But her killers had kept Abby's ID and they kept her credit cards, and they sure as hell kept that purse. Now, if you're not into handbags like I am, let me fill you in. That looks to me to be a pink Hermes rosé bag, and those retail for about $40,000 in American coin, honey. So yeah, they were keeping that bag for sure. That could be easily resold. The police also confirmed that the blood and tissue on the saw and the grinder have been confirmed to be human and belonging to Abby. They also tell the public they have found 2 different types of meat cleavers, a hammer, 2 full face shields, and 2 black raincoats. After this, Abby's former mother-in-law, Jenny Lee, was arrested as well. So basically, Alex Kwong and his entire family, they're all in jail at this point. Then police get a tip that both Kwong Kau and Anthony Kwong, Alex's brother, had visited a cemetery on the day Abby went missing. Could this case get any more gruesome? I mean, honestly, now we have a visit to the cemetery. These people are ghouls. So the police send more than 100 officers to that cemetery to begin searching for more potential evidence. Now, tell me the last time you saw a case in the States where 100 officers converged on any potential crime scene. It's a real testament to how different things are in Hong Kong, right? The army of officers searched all weekend but found nothing at the cemetery. They even searched the sewage system around the cemetery, and they went into the sewers around Kwong Kau's apartment, his secret love nest, to see if anything had been found disposed of there. But they found nothing. They did, however, find something of great assistance. They found a 7-seat van at Kwong Kau's apartment. I'm assuming they were hiding it there at the secret mistress apartment. The van was covered in blood spatter. What they currently believe is that the family rented the van or maybe even purchased it in preparation for the murder. When Anthony went to pick Abby up, to pick up the little girl at school, he made up some type of a story as to why he was driving this van instead of the usual car. And Abby got inside believing she was going to pick up her daughter from school. She was then bludgeoned and killed in the van. They've got a lot of information on this case for it happening just a couple of weeks ago. It's quite impressive. Just hours before I finished researching and writing this story, it was announced that a 6th arrest in the case has been made. One of Alex Kwong's friends, a man currently known only as Lam, has been arrested. We do know that Lam is the former assistant to Ronald Cheng, who is a cantopop singer and also an actor. Now, as you can imagine, ties to this very famous man has brought an entirely new level of fascination to this story. So now Alex, Anthony, Kwong Kau, Jenny Lee, Young, and Lam are all in custody, charged with participating in the murder of Abby Choi. This is where the case stands now. As I am not familiar with the Hong Kong justice system, I don't know how long it will be before the trial begins. I did learn through my research that Hong Kong procedure generally requires that a trial take place within 6 months of arrest, but there are a lot of circumstances that could cause that timeline to be extended. So for now, we wait. We wait and we hope that justice is served and that if guilty, the people who committed this terrible act are punished. I feel so sorry for Abby's children. 2 of them are now living with their father, and Abby's mother is taking care of the other 2. I want to send them love from our community and let them know we're thinking of them. I cannot imagine what they are going through, and I know I speak for all of us when I say that we are very sorry for the loss of Abby and hope that they are healing as best they can. Thank you for joining me today on Dining with Death, True Crime Tuesday. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you can, join my Patreon. It is really, really helpful. This is a tough platform. I sure am happy that you're here. I'm happy that you choose to spend a little bit of your week with me. I look forward to talking with you in the comments every time I post. I really enjoy it. Stay safe, my friends, and be kind to each other. And I'll see you next time on Dining with Death. Bye.